And now, Good Mike Ware Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
It feels good to be back on a Saturday for a wingy. We missed last week due to a couple of wrestling pay-per-views, but we are back. Welcome to your Winged Eagle podcast for the 1st of June, 2024. Happy 1st of the month to one and all. And we kind of got a big one this week because it was a very, very news-heavy week. So much so that I uploaded 3 separate mic drops all in one day, I think on Thursday, discussing the Becky Lynch upcoming free agency, Adam Copeland's injury, and some other AEW and WWE contract stuff. I kind of already made some comments on that this week if you want to check that stuff out, but we are going to elaborate on Becky Lynch, on Ethan Page, on Jordan Grace, and a lot of WWE contracts coming up for expiration very, very soon, along with some AEW ones as well. And this is what makes competition so great, because when you have 2 competing North American companies that have been around for a while, contracts start coming up all the time. As a fan, I haven't experienced this in like 25 years, and it's kind of cool. So it's fun to speculate and wonder and debate and talk and discuss where people might wind up, might leave, might stay, that kind of thing. And we have no shortage of that type of those type of topics to get into today. And probably the head story, the lead story that we're going to start with today is, of course, the latest Vince McMahon news, as Janelle Grant's ongoing sexual assault, sex trafficking, and sex abuse lawsuit against Vince McMahon, Laurinaitis, and the WWE has been paused at the request of the Department of Justice because they are investigating Vince. And normally you don't do this type of stuff unless there is an indictment forthcoming. So we will talk about that in a little bit, and the fact that Vince McMahon could very well be in deep, deep shit. And we've been talking about this other shoe dropping for months now. So we will be getting into that and talking about what that could mean for Vince, as it's been a wild, wild week, that is for sure. We're also going to talk about last night's SmackDown, where AJ Styles dusted off the old Mark Henry retirement and duped Cody Rhodes. I thought that was pretty fun and funny. This past week's Dynamite as well, I thought was an interesting show. Not great, but not bad. I enjoyed maybe 70% of the show. 30% of it I did not enjoy. But we also had some pretty surprising news in terms of who's going to challenge Swerve Strickland at Forbidden Door. So we had some interesting things take place and transpire on Dynamite. Speaking of Dynamite, we're going to talk about the latest in AEW's TV rights deal negotiations. And also, we're going to talk about the changes, the negative changes that we've seen in AEW over the past few years. There has been, a lot of discussion about backstage frustrations, things like that, booking, and just the overall day-to-day running of AEW, starting to hear, a lot of the same familiar things that we've heard described about other wrestling companies for the past 30 years. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So we'll run through SmackDown, we'll run through Dynamite. We got all this news to get into as well. We will give a quick preview to tonight's Collision, and we'll probably touch on a little bit of Monday Night Raw, because I did not see Monday Night Raw this past week. Didn't even go back and watch it outside of a couple of clips because it was Labor Day, but I did see the Becky Lynch, Liv Morgan cage match that ended in a Liv Morgan and Dominic kiss. So I thought that was kind of cool. And we'll talk about whatever we can here. So welcome. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. And thank you for joining us 30 minutes earlier than normal. Normally, we try to come up here at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, but I got a big night at work tonight. So I wanted to be up here a little bit early to ensure that I have enough time to talk about all this stuff with you guys. So welcome to the channel. Welcome back. Welcome to the weekend, and welcome to the Wingy. I want to give you guys a scheduling note for tomorrow. We are back with our classic pay-per-view watch-alongs, and I've picked a good one. We're gonna suffer together. We haven't suffered in a while. I usually try to keep our pay-per-views as fun as possible, but the more great pay-per-views we do, the more shitty ones pile up, and we're eventually gonna have to get to. And tomorrow, I think we're gonna do one. Tomorrow, we are going to watch WWE King of the Ring 1995. It's a weird one. It's Mabel. We got Undertaker taking a fucking loss, a pin loss in 1995 on the show. We got Bret Hart cramming the foot of Jerry Lawler in his own mouth, which would then lead to the debut of Mayor Yankum in the company, and it was all in all a wild, weird show in Philadelphia, and the crowd was none too pleased with WWE's presentation that night. So if you want to kick back and have some fun and suffer a little bit, but maybe suffer in a good way, because 1995, despite all of its problems, was still fun for me. This show aired just a week or two after I graduated high school. So we're going to be going way back tomorrow night. Join us for King of the Ring 1995. The link is already up on my channel right now. That's the only real scheduling stuff I have to tell you guys about. Check out the mic drops that I uploaded on Thursday. And also, we should be here. Let me think out loud. Yeah, we will. We'll be here Monday night after Raw for a review, since we missed last week too. And then we'll start catching up on our Clash of the Castle card and plans and speculation and all that stuff on the Raw side of things. So stay tuned for that 2 days from now on Monday. Now I'm going to go to the chat, say hello to everyone who is here. If you guys don't mind, do me a favor, because the algorithm really loves those juicy, sexy likes. So click that little thumbs up button down there. I would appreciate it. Helps me, helps the channel, and helps us grow. So if you do that for me, I would appreciate it. And if you're watching this and you're not a subscriber and you like what you hear and I don't drive you crazy, please consider subscribing and sticking around. Thank you so much. Good to see. Let's start with channel members. Let me hit all the ones I can see. Max Pokebra is here. So is Zane G. We got Tatanani, Red Raven Rucker, Zach Palgett, Isaac, Big J, JJ Leg, Sonic Plays, Denny Downbad, and Spectra chiming in with $10 for us. Thank you so much, dude. Hey, happy Saturday, Greg, and all. Considering going to Forbidden Door. It's only a 4-hour drive, but money may stop me. You know what, guys? I'm sorry. Forgive me. Remind me where it is. Is it in Toronto again? I don't even know where Forbidden Door is. I feel like an idiot. I didn't even know Dynamite was at the Forum on Wednesday. I wouldn't have been able to go anyway, because it was kind of short notice, but I was at the last Dynamite at the Forum, and it was pretty awesome. But I'm not sure where Forbidden Door is. Hopefully you can go, though, man. Ospreay's my favorite in the world at the moment. It's kind of hard for me to disagree with that. He's kind of mine, too. When he has a presence to him that is just... I don't know. It makes me like giddy with excitement. Like, I want to see him. Like, when he's in the ring cutting a promo or doing anything, I kind of stop what I'm doing and watch him. Like, that's how good I feel like he is. He has got this presence to him that he is just a joy to watch speak and to watch work. He is also my favorite in the world at the moment. That could change, but right now, June 1st, 2024, Greg's favorite is also Will Ospreay. I'm with you, Spectra. I'd love to see him versus Swerve. Going to be great. That is going to be a good match. We're going to talk about Ospreay getting that shot, because that did surprise me a little bit, because I was kind of thinking Ospreay's first title shot, world title shot, would probably be around All In. So you have to wonder now, if they're doing Ospreay and Swerve at Forbidden Door, what are they going to do at All In? Are we looking at an MJF match here or something? Or are we going to get maybe like a trilogy between Swerve and Ospreay? Or maybe just a duology. Maybe they just run it back at All In. Or maybe we get a series of matches that maybe culminates in Ospreay winning it All In. I don't know. But a lot to talk about there, and we will mention and talk about Forbidden Door here in just a bit. Long Island, thank you for that. Okay, so Long Island. All right, so pretty close to where it was, or where it's been last year. Hopefully you can get to that show, Spectre. How about this? Don't send me any more super chats until after Forbidden Door, and save all of your money for that event, because I want you to go to that real bad. Steve Jacobson, good to see you. Chaz Medeiros is here. Ben Espinoza as well. Good to see Dominus, Charles, Cherokee George. We got Superman Bassfisher, JE Evolution, Team Sharp. We got Chiro. Always happy to see you. Thank you for being here. Nick B is in the house as well. So is Martin Tomlinson, Mike Rouse, Jay Lambo. We got Damian Drain, Dan Price, my old friend, William Cullen. Gilbert Albalo is in the house as well. Anybody else chiming in? Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Happy weekend. Happy Saturday. And all that good stuff to you. Shell Shock, always happy to see you. And Victor Cologne, also in the house. Channel member Victor. Some of y'all are coming up on 2 years of being a channel member. There are updates coming to the memberships, I promise. I got 2 videos I'm working on right now, but those are for members only, and you guys are going to like them. And I'm sorry I suck at the member stuff. I'm just doing my best over here, you know? It's hard when you have, like, lots of jobs. I do my best. I do what I can. Ram K, Stephen Harris, always good to see you guys as well. Cheers. Only drinking a good old fresh Arrowhead water today because I got to head off to work. But tomorrow for the watch-along, King of the Ring 1995, there's going to be some cold ones toasted because I don't know how anyone can get through that show completely stone's over. So tomorrow will be a lot of fun. Okay, let's see here. I guess it's got to be wrestling news. We got to start with wrestling news because we kind of got a big update this week. There wasn't a lot of detail on this update, but this update is interesting because it kind of raises a lot of red flags. I mean, not red flags, but it's kind of signifying that something big is a brewing. And that's because Janelle Grant, who is currently suing Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and the WWE over sexual abuse, sexual assault, and sex trafficking allegations. And this is an ugly, ugly suit. It was some 60 some odd pages long, detailing a lot of horrifically bad and disgusting details about Vince McMahon's behavior and his relationship with Janelle Grant and just the culture behind the scenes in WWE. Now, this took a while for the process to play out, but it finally culminated with Vince McMahon being pushed out of his company once the TKO and Endeavor, or once the merger with UFC happened under Endeavor and they formed TKO. It was a process to get the old man out, but we knew that, once the first, allegations of hush money happened, Vince resigned, muscled his way back in. This whole disgusting, sick process of getting this wart removed from the skin of WWE has been a long process. And we all knew that once Vince McMahon was out of WWE, but that was not going to be the end of it for him, because he was and has been investigated for several things. Now, the Janelle Grant lawsuit, which we all know has been ongoing, it was paused this week. Janelle Grant agreed to pause the lawsuit at the request of the Department of Justice. Now, this is kind of interesting because usually the government wouldn't take this step of asking her or requesting that they pause the lawsuit unless there were indictments forthcoming. And that's what most people believe here is going on. And we knew that this was a possibility because, as we know, WWE revealed in a filing that Vince McMahon was served with a federal grand jury subpoena and search warrant this past July, so almost a year ago now, where his home was raided. They seized cell phones and all sorts of other personal effects and documents of Vince McMahon due to this investigation. Now, according to a statement issued by Grant's attorney, Ann Callis, Grant agreed to stay her case at the request of the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. The government indicated that they had a pending non-public investigation, and the lawsuit could interfere with the DOJ criminal investigation. The stay is reportedly valid for 6 months, according to the New York Post. So when you look at all of the information here, you're like, oh shit, we've been talking about this search warrant for months. Even with dating back to last year when Vince is still fighting his way in the company, and trying to maintain power at all costs and really being a thorn in everybody's side. When this was all going on and then the lawsuit happened, I'm like, this is just the tip of it. Don't forget, he was served with a federal grand jury subpoena in July. They searched his home. What were they looking for? We had no idea. What was it in relation to? I mean, for the federal government to come bang down your door and search your house and take shit due to some big investigation that they've been working on for a long time, apparently, what did you do? And what is it related to? And so this is something that we've been talking about forever. We kept saying, don't forget about what happened last July, because at some point, we're going to hear about that. At some point, we're going to get movement on that. At some point, the other shoe is going to drop. And it sounds like that's about to happen. Like before a volcano explodes, it starts smoking a little bit, maybe feel some earthquakes. That's what all this is right now. I think these are the tremors, the earthquakes, the smoldering before the top blows off of it. And I think Vince McMahon is going to be indicted and arrested and be facing criminal charges and might join a certain particular friend of his who shaved his head in jail in the very near future. Wild, wild, wild. So we will see what comes of this. But, most people, none of us, I'm not, none of you are legal or criminal experts. But when you have, a a lawsuit that is as damning as the one Janelle Grant filed on the WWE. And you have U.S. attorneys requesting that you pause this so they can go after Vince McMahon. They got something. They wouldn't ask her to do this if they had nothing. They wouldn't ask her to do this if, the trail has gone cold or they don't have enough evidence to bring any charges against Vince McMahon. I think they've always had enough evidence. I think this delay, all this time that we've been waiting since we heard about the search warrant last July, is them just building the strongest case they can. And Vince McMahon now is, 80 years old. He's extremely old and whatnot. But it sounds like despite that, he's going to have to answer for his crimes. And how ironic would that be that Vince McMahon is such a crazy nut about health and fitness. And he's always said, I'm going to live forever. I'm going to live to be 120, 130 years old. Wouldn't it be ironic if he actually did live that long the whole time in jail? He did all that work in his life, kept himself in such good shape so he could have a long life. And then the last 40 years of that very long life was spent in the clink. Could very well happen. We'll have to see where this goes, and we'll have to see how long now between the time that Janelle Grant was asked to pause the lawsuit and when we get some indictments. That's the big question, I guess, is how long does this process take? I don't know. This is not my world. I don't like law and criminal and court shit. I don't like it. It's been difficult enough watching all this fucking circus on TV on our own American lives all damn week. So with Vince McMahon, I feel like, as we've been saying for the better part of a year now, at some point, he's going to have to answer for his crimes. And it sounds like it's happening, and it is not a good time to be Vince McMahon. I mean, honestly, guys, I've been saying this for a while now, but now we're starting to get some movement. He is in deep shit. He is in really, really deep shit. And, rich, obscenely rich people, especially people with billions of dollars and who are considered billionaires, it's always feels like they always avoid accountability in some way, but this just isn't giving me that feeling. It's not like Vince McMahon when he was in WWE, even when they became a publicly traded company and he didn't have quite the power that he used to, he could still, for the most part, do whatever he wanted. The talent felt that way. The fans felt that way. He can not do whatever he wants with the federal government. They tried to take him down back in 1993 and 1994. I'm curious if there's anyone still there that might have been around when they tried to get him back then. That's chomping at the bit right now. I don't know. But it sounds like the most successful and most famous and greatest promoter in wrestling history is going to be remembered as a disgraced man. And that's a shame for just wrestling in general. I mean, think about, it's bad enough we have all of the needless wrestling deaths. We've talked about that recently now that we just passed the 25-year anniversary of Owen Hart's death. And wrestling already has a black eye because of that. That's bad enough. But imagine perhaps how respected wrestling would be if Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and anybody else who has embarrassed themselves in the public eye, any other former well-known wrestler who has lived an embarrassing life of post-career addiction, bad behavior, just all around, embarrassing behavior. Imagine if all those people had the reputations of a Mick Foley or a Bryan Danielson. Imagine how respected wrestling would be. Imagine if Danielson was Vince McMahon, instead of Vince McMahon being Vince McMahon. But I feel like as if wrestling doesn't have enough black eyes, ugly underbellies, and doesn't get kicked in the balls enough. You have some of its most iconic names who have nothing but controversy and embarrassing shit attached to them. And that just really sucks. It sucks for wrestling. We've talked about, things like the Chris Benoit, tragedy and murders, how, him taking the life of his family, not only wrecked and ruined the lives of so many, but also, from a professional side, something that WWE wrestling fans, it's really hard to ever go back and watch and enjoy anything that Chris Benoit ever did. And everybody he ever worked with and benefited from working with him or he put over. All of those people's, memories can never be remembered and shared because of that. and now with Vince McMahon, who is arguably one half of the greatest good versus evil storyline in all of professional wrestling's history, Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin, that's more history. The WWE is not going to be too keen, I don't think, on remembering that often. And you think about Hulk Hogan, all the dumb shit that he did, Ric Flair, the ongoing embarrassment that is his life right now. And just like, imagine if all these icons just didn't suck. That would make me feel so much better as a wrestling fan. Might make me feel a little prouder to walk around as a wrestling fan, knowing that there are good people that share those iconic names, but they're not. They're just fucking scumbags, all of them. And Vince McMahon, I'm going to have zero sympathy for whatever happens to him, whatever accountability he faces. He's going to deserve every single bit of. Many would argue that he, probably deserved to get popped for some illegal activity many, many moons ago. So the fact that it's finally happening now, as he's approaching 80 years old, or if he is 80 years old, I don't know how old Vince is these days. He old, we know that. So I'm not going to have a whole lot of sympathy for the deranged old man, because the details that we read about in that lawsuit alone were pretty horrendously disgusting. So one can only imagine what the government has been finding out about Vince McMahon in the past year. And I think soon we will all know that information too. So we will keep our eye on this ongoing developing story that we could get some more information as early as Monday. We could hear something, or perhaps later on next week, perhaps 3 weeks from now, but definitely something is going on. This motion would not have been requested if there wasn't some sort of forthcoming indictment, and that's what I believe in my heart of hearts. So we will see what happens there. Man, not good. Not good for Vince. But let's switch gears now, talk about something a little bit less serious, and that is AEW and WWE contracts. Now, there's a bunch of them up, and some of them are expired already. A big free agent hit the market today. Becky Lynch is officially a free agent. Her contract ended last night on May 31st, and she never did re-sign her new deal with WWE. Now, I uploaded a complete separate video on this earlier on in the week on Thursday, a mic drop talking about Becky Lynch possibly leaving WWE. And I said, and I asked you guys, is she leaving WWE? And I believe that she is leaving WWE, but not in the way we think. I don't think Becky Lynch is leaving WWE for AEW. I do not. Although, now that Becky is a free agent, there is no compete clauses or anything like that. So technically, Becky Lynch could show up on another pro wrestling television show tomorrow if she wanted to. She could be on Dynamite this Wednesday. Will she be? I say no. I don't believe that's what's happening here. I think reportedly most fans and a lot of the reports circulating online around various journalists and websites have all been discussing Becky Lynch taking time off. We've talked about that here recently, as recent as WrestleMania time with Seth Rollins' injury, and after WrestleMania, how we might not see him for a while. And since he's sitting at home right now, not coming back, at least in the immediate future, but he'll probably be back by, maybe SummerSlam or something. He's taking some much deserved time off. And we were speculating that if Becky Lynch's contract is up, she could be taking time off with him. I speculated after WrestleMania and after she lost to Rhea Ripley that she'd be taking time off right then, and that we wouldn't see her or Seth Rollins until way later in the summer. I basically thought she was going to be done after WrestleMania and her contract would lapse while she was already out. But then Rhea Ripley got injured. WWE called her back over to come in and, and hold the title, I guess, to pass it to Liv Morgan so Liv Morgan could have someone credible to beat. Where I just thought Liv would win it in the Battle Royal. This whole thing was done so Liv could actually beat Becky Lynch for it, and she could be champion when Rhea Ripley came back. But if Rhea Ripley never got injured, then I'm not sure if we would have seen Becky at all after WrestleMania. Her contract probably just would have lapsed right now, and we'd be talking about that. So I've always felt since WrestleMania that Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins would probably just take some time off together and then come back roughly around the same time. Now, Seth Rollins has already re-upped his deal. He signed up or re-signed with the company several weeks back, so he's locked into a long-term, big money deal. Now, Becky Lynch, she could be, my belief is she has every intention of returning to WWE, but she's going to take a little bit of a break first, probably a longer break than Seth Rollins. I kind of hope that Becky takes the entire rest of the year off. I would love to see her come back early 2025, maybe at the Royal Rumble, and she'll have a brand new contract by then. She could maybe even leverage herself against AEW to try to get her the biggest money deal possible and make her the highest paid woman in the business, which I think is a personal ambition of hers. And also could allow her to maybe do some other things, explore some opportunities in Hollywood or other appearances, or just take a break. It feels to me from where I'm sitting, that's what she's doing. Doesn't mean that is what she's doing. She could totally show up on Dynamite this Wednesday. I just don't think that's the case. And again, it just depends on what your personal and professional aspirations and ambitions are. If Becky Lynch is just all about making the money, then Tony Khan might be able to throw a little bit more at her. But she's not going to get any more exposure in AEW. Her exposure and her legacy and who she's known as is all in WWE. So it would have to be a personal thing. I want to prove that I can do it outside of WWE, their umbrella, and their WWE given name to me. I want to prove that I can wrestle anywhere in the world and do what Sasha Banks did or Mercedes Moné did or do what Danielson did. If she has a desire to do that, then we could see her leave. But as someone who just had a kid a couple of years ago, her husband also has a, high spot on WWE's roster. They are creating an amazing WWE legacy for themselves. It doesn't feel like any of that is going to stop or end anytime soon. Becky Lynch going to AEW, her and Seth co-parenting in separate companies, feels like it would be difficult, but we're also not them. If they can do it, they can do it. There's lots of spouses and couples across both companies right now as we speak. So this would be no different, but it would just feel difficult to manage, when you can both just be in the same company, travel together, be with your family, not only do the job you love, but also be together at the same time. To me, that carries more weight than money. But then again, I'm not Becky. Y'all are not Becky. I'm not Seth. You're not Seth. At least I don't think. Seth, you here? Seth, are you in the chat? Seth might be here. But if he's not, then none of us are either one of these two, and we don't know what they want to do. But it just feels like Becky isn't going anywhere. I think she's just going to take some time off from the WWE and come back in several months, and we'll see if we turn out to be wrong about that, because Becky Lynch is in the unique opportunity now just to make a huge surprise debut in AEW, and that would get an initial holy shit moment and break the internet for a few hours. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure what it would mean for Becky's career. Showing up in AEW as Rebecca Quinn and a new song and a new presentation. Hey, Mercedes did it. Why can't Becky? But just not feeling Becky going anywhere. But others could be going somewhere. There's a lot of WWE contracts right now, and there are a few AEW contracts that have also expired. In WWE, we have a few of them. Now, on Thursday, I uploaded a mic drop where I talked about Ethan Page and Jordan Grace, also talked about some AEW contracts expiring, but I did not talk about, because the news wasn't out yet, Chad Gable or Ricochet. Now, Chad Gable is kind of a big one because he's in the middle of this Alpha Academy quest for the Intercontinental title. Many fans are expecting him to achieve that, but apparently his contract is up soon and he is not yet re-signed. Now, with Gable, based on how they've treated him in the past, I certainly would at least maybe listen to what AEW has to say, but it now also feels like finally he's a part of something major. He's heavily featured on television every week, and he's feuding for a championship, and he's got a storyline with his stable right now, and it sounds like he's on the verge of completely disowning them and hopefully forming his own little stable there with the Creed brothers. Lots of talk about the Creed brothers. They've been doing jobs ever since they dropped Damian Priest on his head, and or at least kind of shoved in the back a little bit. They were really hit the main roster with a bang when they first got there, but they've been largely kind of forgotten ever since that one botch seemed to happen in the ring. So I think maybe them joining Chad Gable, forming a Team Angle type of group would be a lot of fun. And Gable is now in a position in WWE where I want to see him stay there. 2 years ago, if his contract was up, I would say go. go to AEW, run and flee from WWE like a burning building. But I wouldn't say that now because he's actually they're finally Triple H recognizing this guy's talent, seeing what a gem he is, and I feel like they can get and turn Gable into a big star, because if he goes to AEW, he's just going to have great matches there, and he can have great matches anywhere. If he wants to go, give me a Gable Ospreay match any day of the week, great, that's awesome, but Gable is too entertaining, and I would like to see him try to find success in WWE. I think he would be a little bit more fun there without the fear of being lost in the shuffle or, momentum, being stomped out, things like that. Those typical problems we're hearing about in AEW right now. Wouldn't want to see Gable subjected to that. I think he's probably safer from a creative standpoint in WWE, and I cannot believe that's a sentence I just said, but it is the truth. So Gable, hopefully he will resign. Especially, if they pitch him, hey, we're going to put you with the Creeds, we're going to give you a new faction, we're going to give you the Intercontinental title, and that could maybe be your stepping stone to something bigger down the road. Hopefully, Chad Gable will stick around. Our friend Natalya, who just shot us a follow the other day after our Owen Hart video, her deal is also expiring soon. She has not yet re-signed either. Natalya is somebody that I could actually see maybe leaving for a little while, just going out and doing something else. Maybe joining AEW and just being a veteran locker room, leader that they might need. She really seems to like doing that type of stuff. But I've really enjoyed Natalya's work over the past year or so in WWE. I think she just looks amazing. She's done so great, and she really is a beloved talent behind the scenes. The girls love her. And I don't really want to see her go anywhere because she has developed such a long legacy for herself in WWE. But then again, she's had a very successful career. She's, in a good position to kind of step outside the world, step outside the house, see what else is out there, and, maybe come back. I think Natalya is going to be a Hall of Famer one day. I think Natalya is always going to have a connection to WWE somehow. So I can't even see her going and signing with AEW. I think if anything, she might make a couple of indie appearances, maybe make a TNA run or, do a New Japan match or something like that, go down to Mexico if she wants. Otherwise, she might have a lot of other outside projects as well. But, her husband, TJ, is there as an agent in WWE. They're there. They are a part of WWE. The Hart family, legacy and culture is very much ingrained in the company as well. And I don't really see Natalya leaving, and I don't want her to. So hopefully she will re-up with the company. And also, Ricochet. Ricochet's another guy who... his contract is coming up, and it looks like on the other side in AEW, Will Ospreay is trying to butter him up a little bit. And we all remember back, 8 years ago, whatever it was, two skinny pricks named Will Ospreay and King Ricochet tore the damn house down at an indie event and had a lot of fans debating their style of wrestling. Fast forward 8 years later, Ospreay is who I believe is the best in the business right now. Ricochet is a hell of an athlete doing things that very few people can do, very athletic style, and he has made the eyeballs literally pop out of my head many, many times throughout his run, and I think Ricochet is awesome, but he is a no Will Ospreay. He does not have a fraction of the charisma of a Will Ospreay. He doesn't have a fraction of his presence. He's great inside the ropes. He's amazing there, but I would, when Will Ospreay is speaking, I'm listening and I'm smiling. When Ricochet is speaking, I'm seeing what Blanche and Sophie are up to on the Golden Girls, because I'm just not interested. So Ricochet and Will Ospreay could rekindle that rivalry in AEW, sure, but I don't think it would translate to more success for Ricochet. You know what I mean? Because Ricochet, granted, he's been used in various different levels in WWE, but he seems like he's always on TV. He's had some runs with championships, North American title, Intercontinental title. I don't think he won the U.S., but he might have. He's the current speed champion right now. So even though he's never been really in the world title mix, he's still a featured part of television relatively frequently on WWE TV. There probably is a camp of fans that feel like he's not gotten the opportunities that he deserves, and there are a camp of fans that feel like he has. I kind of feel like he has, just based on how much he's been used on television. This is a guy that at least is getting TV time, TV matches virtually every week. Sure, he's not feuding with Roman Reigns or anything like that, but I don't think he'd be feuding for the world title in AEW either, because this is just a really, really superb athlete who can give you some eye-popping and dazzling matches, but just doesn't have that charismatic presence that some others do in the business. And that's me trying to be as nice as possible to Ricochet, because I really do like Ricochet a lot. And again, we bring up the couples, and again, the couples are not a roadblock. We got Keith Lee and Mia Yim and Zelina and Malachi. We did have Andrade and Charlotte until recently, and I think there's another one that I'm forgetting right now as well, Rhea Ripley and Buddy Matthews. So that wouldn't stop anyone, but just if you're in a relationship in the chat, would you and your partner or spouse want to work on opposite sides of the country for 70% of the year? That would be really difficult to manage, I think. So if I had a chance to be with the person I love, I would rather be with the person I love. And Ricochet is engaged to the greatest goddamn WWE ring announcer of all time in Samantha Irvin. And I feel like, might be better just to stay where you are. But regardless of relationship status and whatnot, professionally, I feel like WWE is a better place for Ricochet right now. A couple of years ago, I might have said make the jump, but right now, if I'm Ricochet, I'm going to try to stick around. And WWE, it might suck for him too. Being with Samantha Irvin might actually work against him, because WWE might feel he's not going to go to AEW, even if he pretends like he will. He's probably just bluffing to get a higher deal or whatnot. So actually being in a relationship might work against you if the company is expecting that they can re-sign you if they want to. So we'll see where Gable, Natalya, and Ricochet end up. If I had to guess, I think they're all going to stick around in WWE. At least I hope they do. Reggie, Scripps. I never saw any of Scripps. I just knew that was his name. In NXT, never saw a single match or a single thing that Scripps did. I didn't even know what Scripps was or what he was supposed to be, but he's gone. Not gonna work here anymore. But no, Scripps Reggie is a free agent. We wish him well. Dude's a hell of an athlete. He's not gonna have any trouble getting any bookings anywhere, and I'm sure he will be viewable to us as fans in the very near future. He's too good not to be picked up and booked if you're any sort of independent promotion at all, and maybe even AEW in his future if they want to work him in somewhere. Who knows? But I think AEW needs to kind of pause. Well, they're not really doing it, but I think AEW needs to refrain or try to show some self-control with some of these free agents. Don't just sign them to sign them, because you already have lost in the shuffle issues over there, so no need to make it worse. But also, this week we saw interesting stuff happen on NXT. Ethan Page showed up and attacked Trick Williams, so we knew his contract was up. There was a lot of rumors and speculation that he was done with AEW, and he immediately signed with NXT, attacked the world champion. So I'm happy to see him there, because, he's somebody that I think the fans genuinely like, and I think a lot of wrestlers like him as well. He's been heavily praised by lots of people in the industry. And I think one of the problems AEW had and has still is when somebody starts to do something that starts to connect a little bit, or the fans start saying, ooh, I kind of want to see more of that. We don't get any more of that. Where in WWE, if they notice something starts clicking, they're going to try it. So a lot of times it doesn't work. A lot of times it's fucking stupid. And we're just like, oh God, no. But at least they try, And so with Ethan Page, if he can get some momentum, with his personality and connect with the audience, WWE right now anyway is in a better position to realize that and capitalize on it than AEW it is, at least from my observation. So really cool to see Ethan Page in NXT. And also we saw Jordynne Grace. She was in the Royal Rumble as the TNA champion, which was wild. And now she's going to be the next challenger of Roxanne Perez at Battleground. Now, reportedly, according to Fightful Select, Jordynne Grace has signed on to do a 3-match deal with NXT that's going to pay her 6 figures. And she's the current TNA champion, TNA Knockouts champion. So we have a working agreement now between WWE and TNA. This is really interesting. And it's made me kind of wonder about some other things too, because there are some... Well, first, let's talk about Jordynne Grace. The fact that she's coming in for 3 matches makes me think that she could win the title. Like maybe she wins the title, or maybe she loses initially and then gets a rematch and wins the title, and then Roxanne wins it back. Something like that. I almost think that with a 3-match deal, maybe you would win the championship. Or she might, I'm wondering if they want to put this is my biggest question. If they want to put the NXT title on TNA TV, even though there's a lot of backstage things going on in TNA right now that have got a lot of people wondering if something is happening. I'm wondering if like WWE's buying TNA or something. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here, but there's some departures happening behind the scenes there that's kind of interesting. But assuming TNA is sticking around and some big, humongous, colossal story isn't about to break about TNA's future, and it's going to be business as usual for them, I think it would be really cool for Jordynne Grace to bring that NXT title to TNA TV. That would break some barriers, at least in WWE land, having one of their belts go somewhere else. That's pretty cool. We see that a lot right now in AEW. They've got everybody's belts over there, but WWE, it's still kind of rare for them to, cross promote, if you will. And with Triple H, now mainly in charge, I think these things are much more likely, and little deals like this are much more likely to get done. WWE's had their eye on Jordynne Grace for a while. I know they talked to her at the Royal Rumble. They probably have every intention of signing her up as soon as she's contractually able. But in the meantime, TNA is allowing her to work dates for them, and I just think that is terrific. So I hope they do something in the series of matches with Perez and Grace, assuming that she's facing her all 3 times. I don't know why I thought that. I don't know why I assumed that, but they said it was for a 3-match deal. So maybe she's coming in to work with 3 different opponents just so WWE can get a really good look at her. But I would like to see a situation to where she either wins the NXT title briefly and then drops it right back, and during the time that she's holding the title, she takes it to TNA TV, or she steals the title, like in an angle, or maybe she wins by disqualification and gets mad and takes the title and runs out of the building into a running car and speeds away, and then shows up on TNA with the belt. And then Roxanne shows up on Impact and attacks her, and they have a match in NXT and Roxanne wins it back. Something like that would be super cool, I think, especially when you think about the WWE and TNA war back in the day that kind of led to the birth of this channel. Where we're sitting at today is pretty wild. But in terms of these TNA rumors, let me just touch on this real quick. Did I not put down a source here? Oh, this is from the Wrestling Observer online regarding TNA. TNA Wrestling will undergo some changes in both their creative and live events teams following the resignation of one person and the layoffs of others. Meltzer first reported in this week's Observer that Robert R.D. Evans had resigned this week, with PW Insider later reporting that the relationship between the de facto head of creative and TNA had grown strained in recent weeks, which had left Evans frustrated. PW Insider also reported that Dave Sahadi is gone after being laid off. Sahadi was the company's creative director starting in 2019 and also worked for the prior TNA ownership for 18 years as their director of broadcasts. Sahadi also worked as creative director for WWE in the past. It's unknown as of now who is taking over as lead of creative and how those spots will be filled. They got no lead creative over there. If I was a talent under contract there, that would make me incredibly uncomfortable. The outlet also reported other layoffs in the live events group as part of restructuring efforts, but no specific names were attached, nor a succession plan. TNA has a busy schedule through the first weekend of August with several TV tapings, their August Against All Odds streaming special, and July's Slammiversary pay-per-view. Their next show in 2 weeks is in Chicago. So, yeah, that's kind of eyebrow raising there. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't really follow, the inner workings of TNA, but the fact that they've got some weird things happening, you got one of their champions showing up on TV. I'm wondering if WWE is going to, I've always wondered if WWE would buy TNA, because one thing about TNA, you have to remember, they have I think a much more valuable TV library than Ring of Honor. Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor, and he's got that tape library ready to throw it at a streaming platform once they land a deal somewhere. But WWE, we're going to talk about AJ Styles here in a little bit. His whole fucking career is in TNA. Kurt Angle, same thing. A lot of WWE wrestlers like Christian and Jeff Hardy and Booker T and so many others there. And Mick Foley has had, a series of matches there. I think the TNA library could be super valuable to WWE if they wanted to acquire that in any way. So if any of these rumors are attached to WWE being a bigger part of TNA's life. I'm just speculating. I have no idea. Don't take my word for it. Don't run to the internet and says Greg says WWE's buying TNA. I have no idea. But I think it would be awesome if WWE got TNA's video library and made it available on Peacock. We could start doing TNA watch-alongs here on the channel because we've had a lot of requests to do TNA watch-alongs, but we watch everything on Peacock. It makes it easier and easiest for the audience. So if TNA's library winds up on a platform like that, you know, that will be a lot of fun for the channel. So we'll see what is going on there with TNA and when and what all of this could mean. But when you combine this with Jordan Grace's NXT appearance, it's like, what are they doing here? But anyway, back to the contract stuff. We talked about the WWE side of things and some of those contracts that are coming up and are already expired. Also in AEW land, I should say, we have Arn Anderson leaving the company. I believe his contract date reportedly was up yesterday, but that's just reported. That's not confirmed. But it sounds like Arn Anderson is officially done with AEW. Jake Hager is also gone from AEW. I think his deal has expired and was mutually not renewed. So he's a free agent. And Mark Henry, his deal with the company is also done. He mentioned on Bustin' Open Radio that he would be finishing up with the company as well. And I think technically Mark Henry is a free agent. So we could see Mark Henry, Arn, and Hager all turn up in WWE in the near future. Now, in the video I posted on Thursday, I pitched a wild tag team of Jake Hager and Baron Corbin, the ambiguously douche duo. They would be hilarious together because I think they're so horrifically unlikable that both of them are. They have such a record-setting levels of unlikability that it might actually be able to converge into a black hole and explode a whole bunch of greatness onto all of us. And I think when you suck so bad that you can actually be good, that might be what those two guys could do if they ever buddied them up. Mark Henry, he might just want to stick to podcasting, or he might want to come back and do some more panels and maybe some appearances in WWE in the ring, perhaps. I don't know. And Arn Anderson, if they ever wanted to bring him in to do something with Cody, I think that would be a lot of fun too. You know, Cody got duped on SmackDown. It might be time for Arn Anderson to come in the ring, get Cody in the ring with him, and slap him across the face and say, "Are you stupid? How stupid are you?" Slap him with the Denny's menu right across the face. Psh, psh. Fucking what? Do I got to be here? Hold your hand here? How did you not see he was doing that to you? That might be kind of fun for Arn to hit the ring and scold Cody Rhodes. Well, as a champion, you got to have your head on a swivel. You got to be able to see and sniff out bullshit. And I'm worried for you, Cody, because every damn fan at home knew what AJ Styles was doing except for you. Know your WWE history. Weren't you here in 2013? Don't you remember what Mark Henry did? Something like that would be fun, I think. But we'll see if we see any of those personalities turn back up in the WWE. Me personally, if Mark Henry, was put on some kickoff panel shows and whatnot, great. I like Mark Henry. If Arn Anderson came back to do something with Cody, that would be fun. The only one I have no true desire or need to see is Jake Hager. He's a good wrestler. He can fight. He's big. But that's all. I've never paid money to see him wrestle, so I don't really need to see him. But if he turns up, good for him. He's been there before. He's a former world champion in the company, so they just might want to bring him back. We will see. All right, let's see. What other kind of crazy news can we talk about here? Here's some interesting stuff about AEW and Tony Khan. That's a fun subject, isn't it? Titanium Titan. Hello. Good to see you. Let me give this a refresh real quick. By the way, thumbs up button, guys. Would appreciate it if you hit that for me. All right, there we go. Just want to give my chat a refresh so I can see you guys. Let's talk about some stuff that's going on in AEW right now, because things are kind of not great behind the scenes. And Brian Alvarez this week posted on Wrestling Observer's message board, kind of like this, I guess it's a thread. Everybody's posting threads these days. So I guess it's a thread. Basically comparing, current AEW to 2019 WWE, basically when WWE was at its creative worst, when you had a completely delusional old man that forgot and forgets what he books the week before, running creative, crazy ideas, spinning their wheels, going nowhere, emotionless, passionless, empty hard cam arena type of product here. It was bad. And he was kind of comparing the two. And one of the things he said and was mentioning in this thread is there's been a lot of reports, I guess, from his sources about behind the scenes, creatively, things are getting more and more chaotic. And I tell you, he used some of the same language that we've heard used to describe the backstage environments in a lot of wrestling companies in the past, including WWE and WCW. And you have to start wondering if maybe this is just the way wrestling companies run, because they all do this. They all do this, and they have all been accused of the same thing. I've talked about this, but here's some of the things he said. He says that Tony Khan has switched the script several times recently, during the afternoon of shows, and he switched the script several times during the afternoon of Double or Nothing. And he went on to say that's becoming more and more frequent, kind of last minute changes, talent coming to the building, not knowing what they're doing type of thing. He says wrestlers don't know what they're doing until the day of the show or until close to showtime. Wrestlers being flown in and not used, being flown in on the fly to do something quickly. And basically everything is kind of being booked show to show. And he brought up how Excalibur, and this is one thing that I've noticed too, that I've kind of missed. There was a time in AEW where it really felt that like they had their ducks in a row. That was one of my biggest praises of them back when they were kicking ass. I said, what I like about these guys so much is they have their fucking ducks in a row. And every Dynamite, you would have Excalibur rattle off 500 fucking matches that they already have booked for the next set of TVs. And I'm like, man, they are thinking ahead. They've got plans. This is great. They know what they're doing. And that was the way it was for a little while, and then the wheels fell off, and then problems start happening. You have to think on the fly, think outside the box, brawl outs, brawl ins, all sorts of controversy and madness going on behind the scenes, injuries, changing the course of direction of major storylines, and all of this pre-planning, and they had their ducks in a row. It just started falling off the rails, and now they can't stabilize, and it just kind of day to day, week to week, show to show type of thing, and that sucks. And it says, Alvarez said that Tony Khan is much more difficult or much harder to get a hold of now, and more difficult to get a hold of now than he was years ago. He was much easier to access back then. And talked about how the talent and staff frequently discuss this stuff. This is a frequent topic of conversation. If the talent after show is going out, having beers together, they're probably talking shop and bitching a lot about this stuff. And, we saw an evidence of that, or we saw an incident of that just this past week on Dynamite when they had already pre-announced Saraya versus Mariah May, and we didn't get the match. And apparently it was bumped for Mercedes and Sky Blue, which turned out to be a great segment and match. But that's the type of thing that's becoming more and more common in AEW, and that makes me very, very nervous. One of the things Brian mentioned, or one of the statements mentioned in the thread, was that it feels like it's inmates running the asylum. And that is a common theme. Think about the Attitude Era. WWE wins the war against WCW. They buy WCW. Shortly after that, we start hearing, when they're doing the WCW DVDs and the documentaries, and they can start now talking a lot more about WCW because, now that they own it. And even prior to that, even shoot interviews. You've heard this in shoot interviews off the record, not WWE's revisionist history stuff, but just off the record shoot interviews, or on the record shoot interviews, I should say, with wrestlers with no company line to toe. They've all said the same thing about WCW in those days, and that is it was completely chaotic. Nobody knew who was in charge. You had Eric Bischoff in charge, but you wouldn't know it because he was no more of a leader than Tony Khan is. And that's what's so funny, to watch that dipshit complain about what a horrible leader that Tony Khan was. I'm like, bitch, you're no better. I don't see Tony Khan in the trailer with his top star on Nitro days having natural lights. What the fuck? So nobody was worse than Eric Bischoff. Everybody fucking couldn't stand him. He was a prick to no end, and he's going to criticize Tony Khan. Is Tony Khan a great leader? Doesn't sound like he is, but you of all people saying that he's not? Come on, Eric Bischoff. Come on, Eazy-E. So we used to hear that about WCW. They all said the same thing. It was chaotic back there. Nobody knew who was in charge. You never knew what you were doing. Sometimes Your music would be playing. You don't even know who you're wrestling. Jericho gets a FedEx. When he opens it up, there was nothing inside of it. Stone Cold Steve Austin fired over the phone. Other guys fired via FedEx. Just constant disorganization and disarray, inmates running the asylum, guys with creative control. And that's not really a thing in AEW. Guys cannot do shit. But in terms of having full-blown creative control, you had way more of that in WCW, wrestlers being difficult, uncooperative, and there's this constant, song and dance being played behind the scenes, and a lot of stuff was just booked on the fly. Now, the difference with WCW, at least like on Nitro and stuff, what they were delivering was pretty quality stuff because they had a tremendous roster. And even though at the time as a fan, I might be shitting on the product, they still have Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall all in the ring at the same time in many weeks, and throw Sting in there and a lot of the other big stars that they had, Goldberg and whatnot. They were doing great stuff, even though it was largely thrown together. Think about that Goldberg and Hogan match in the Georgia Dome in front of 50,000 people where Goldberg won the title. And it was one of the most amazing matches and moments, I should say, maybe not matches, but the moment of Goldberg putting down Hogan, that crowd erupting, Bobby Heenan overcome and overwhelmed with joy that Hogan lost, was a moment that was thrown together. It was thrown together because WWE was sticking their foot up WCW's ass in the ratings around that time. And WCW had started losing. They started freaking out, and they wanted to do something that they know would make them win that week. And I'm pretty sure that they did. Think about if they had the time to book that properly, and it wasn't just a reaction to ratings or a panic button, type of thing being pressed. And it was just like, oh my God. And that's what's going on in AEW right now. Everything is kind of in panic mode. There's probably a lot of stress in Tony Khan's life, even though I'm not too worried about that TV rights deal. Apparently it's imminent. It's going to happen, but it has taken a while to get done. That's still looming over Tony Khan's head. He's probably got to be a little bit stressed out about that, even though if he knows he's going to get a deal done, it cannot be easy to sleep at night knowing that you're negotiating this deal at the same time that you're suffering and dealing with your hardest, ratings decline. This is just the worst timing that anyone could ask for, and it probably is a lot on a guy who already wears way too many hats. And that's something that we heard about in WWE as well. WWE used to throw shade at WCW for not having its shit together, inmates running the asylum, nobody's in charge, booking week to week, changing shows, talent doesn't know what they're doing. All of that stuff we heard about in WCW started happening in WWE. We started hearing that all the time. Talent was frustrated. It was a clusterfuck back there. Nobody was happy. Morale was down. Vince McMahon's tearing up scripts, making crazy random rules. Don't say wrestler. Don't say this. Don't do that. Everything is about don't. Vince McMahon, very, very, very set in his ways, very difficult to convince otherwise, forgetting what he was booking half the time, changing his mind, talent not knowing what they're going to do. The scene in League of Their Own where Marla Hooch, she's coming up to the plate, and then Gina Davis and Tom Hanks, they're fighting with the sign. And she's at the plate going, well, what the fuck? She's going back and forth. That's what it's like with the talent. Like, am I working? Okay, well, I have a match. Okay, no. Oh, it's a promo now? Okay, it's going to be bumped. Okay, now I'm going on SmackDown. Oh, now it's a live event. Oh, now it's a pre-tape. They can never figure out what they're doing. It's just this constant whirlwind of chaos. And now that Vince is gone, from everything we've heard, things are much better behind the scenes. WWE is running creatively behind the scenes about as organized as it can. I think pro wrestling just in general is a chaotic universe. So when you hear about WCW having an inmates running the asylum, nobody knows what the fuck is going on, point in their lives, WWE went through the exact same thing. And I used to say it right here on this channel. I said, how ironic is it that WWE used to, walk around like it had its shit together and used to make fun of WCW for being so disorganized. And now they are dealing with that exact same disorganization that they look down their noses at. And now AEW is going through it too. So it's starting to occur to me that this is just the way the wrestling business is run. The wrestling business is crazy. Things happen that you do not plan. I do not think when AEW signed CM Punk that they expected the workers' rights promo and brawl in and brawl out and lawsuits and all that stuff to happen. WWE, I don't think expected, Vince McMahon to, have the hush money and the sex trafficking lawsuit and the federal indictments incoming that are happening to him either. And you just have to kind of roll with it. Not to mention your on-screen product has to deal with the constant threat of injuries, of random things throwing you off track, and you have to be able to think on the fly. Because you might have a main event booked for SummerSlam, but that don't mean it's going to happen if somebody gets injured. It's amazing to me that we haven't lost a WrestleMania main event yet. 40 of these things, and nobody has gotten injured heading into their big match. On the go-home Raw, the challenger has not broken his leg yet. Eventually, it's going to happen. It's just statistics. So you have to be able to think quickly on the fly anyway. So I guess it's in wrestling's nature just to kind of fly by the seat of their pants. But I think a lot of times it feels better creatively consuming the product from a fan's point of view if there's a little bit more thought going into what they're doing. And that's why I did appreciate AEW a few years ago when they were pre-announcing the next week's matches for Dynamite. Here's everything you're going to see next week. We've already written it. And I'm like, that's great. That's great. WWE doesn't even know during catering that day what they're doing that night, much less a week later. And now it feels like the script is flipped. WWE, I feel like, has got a little bit more of a further plan in place than AEW does in terms of what they're going to do. Triple H probably has a general idea of what he wants to do all the way through SummerSlam. General idea. Things change, but an overall direction, I think he already knows that. Where Tony Khan probably has no clue at all what his main event for All In is going to be. And that's going to be in Wembley Stadium in front of definitely not 80,000 fans. I'm going to say about 50,000 this time around. But it's still going to be a huge crowd, and it's going to be a crowd that you are obligated to deliver for. You can't have all these people come to this stadium and plop a shit down in front of him, and he's not going to, because even with AEW running as chaotic as they are, their pay-per-views are still solid, really, really solid. And imagine how much more solid they could be if, they were just a little bit more well thought out. So hopefully AEW can stabilize itself. As we saw on Dynamite, they now have an on-air role, mouthpiece surrogate type of character in Christopher Daniels that's going to be speaking for Tony Khan. And I'm not, going to tell Tony Khan how to run his business, but it sounds like part of the reason why a lot of this chaos exists is because there's just not enough leadership. And I don't know, wrestling has only kind of been one way. There's always just been kind of one guy at the top, with Vince McMahon. It's hard to have, a team of authority figures, because then, people, get undermined, talent knows the authority figures they like the best, and it's just too messy, so if, you try to get something approved for one guy and the other guy vetoes it and stuff, and that can become a mess. So it's not a matter of just saying, oh, Tony Khan needs to hire people who are in charge. It's not that easy. At the end of the day, the buck has to stop somewhere. So even if Tony Khan hires people to handle creative or handle these problems, if somebody has a dispute, it's still all going to come back and be Tony Khan's decision anyway. So he's still going to be making all the decisions. So I don't know how to effectively or properly hire people in leadership roles that the talent will respect and that will do their jobs right and properly and well and keep the machine well oiled. I don't know how you manage wrestlers. It's probably pretty hard. So I think that's why, as history has shown, morale is so important. Right now, it's pretty high in WWE. There was a time it was pretty high in AEW. That was a real shiny new toy over there that looked attractive to a lot of people. Oh, what's that? And now people who are there are starting not to love it so much. And WWE is like, oh, shit. Cody went over there and became champion. Jade is, already a champion over there in her first, couple of months. They're going to be a huge star. WWE's the game. It's the dance. And I want to go there too. So it's the way the business goes. But when I read what Alvarez posted there, I was kind of laughing. I'm like, haven't we said this about every wrestling company? Hasn't there always been? TNA is the same way. Impact, the revolving door of heads of creative behind the scenes and people in charge and selling, and Dixie and Anthem, and there's an Anthem. Who the fuck owned them? Bischoff and Hogan coming in, and think about that shit show. So think about TNA. They've had the exact same problems as WCW, WWE, AEW, ECW, I'm sure, was a mess in the 90s, even though Paul Heyman, led more of a cult than anything else. So I don't even think you can include ECW in this conversation, because Heyman led differently. He had a different operation going on there and a different pay scale. But, in the other companies, they had a lot of these same descriptions for how the day-to-day inner workings were behind the scenes. And so I think it's about time that we just start admitting to ourselves that this is just the way the business is. It's a crazy business to manage. And if you can find yourself in a position like WWE is now, where they do kind of have some organization to their creative, enjoy it, because it might not always be here. Something crazy might happen to WWE that's going to throw their shit all off balance. Right now, everything's flowing nicely. They know what they want to do in the general direction of where they're going to go, probably even as far into next year's WrestleMania, since Rock and Roman and the Bloodline stuff is going to be involved. So they've got it about as best as they've had it in a long time. I think arguably behind the scenes in WWE creatively, in terms of the directions and the level of frustration of the talent, is about as low as it's been since like 1999 and 2000. When everybody had a story, everybody was doing stuff, and things were great in WWE land. So it sucks to hear these things about AEW. They got to turn this ship around. Apparently, this TV rights deal is on the verge of getting done. We've talked about this. I've never really expressed any worry that they wouldn't get a new deal, but it can't be good to be dealing with ratings and numbers like this while you're trying to renegotiate and getting certain dollar amounts. Getting the deal done isn't the issue here. I think it's about getting the amount of money that Tony Khan wants, and they were looking for somewhere in the neighborhood of double the amount that they were getting on their current deal. Now, one number that's been talked about has been $48 million. That's the number that's been thrown out a couple of times for what AEW is currently getting on their deal with Warner Brothers Discovery. The new deal, according to Meltzer, and I quote, "The figures being talked about are said to be considerably more than the estimated $110 million per year, or slightly more, that would in theory take the company into profitable range. There is talk of figures between 50% above and as There's talk of figures between 50% above and as much as nearly double the current number said to already be on the table. The latter figure in particular would open up the potential of tens of millions more annually for talent acquisitions and other expansions in the budget." So, according to Dave, now take it with a grain of salt, but if Dave is throwing out the $110 million, that is, going to be twice as what they made before, and within 5 years will turn the company profitable. Go look at some of the biggest companies, Coca-Cola, Amazon, just mega companies. How many years to profit it took? They're all a hell of a lot more than 5 years. So AEW turning a profit in 5 years is a pretty big success. That's a big deal in corporate land, So that is probably what Tony Khan is hoping for. But when you have a product, that the fans are kind of complaining about right now, that's not really doing it for us the way it was before. Now you're hearing rumblings of problems behind the scenes, frustrated talent, chaotic activity in creative land. Plus, you've got Tony Khan, who's involved with the Jaguars, involved with other things outside of AEW, which he already runs 100% nearly of. I don't know, luckily he's young. He's not old like Vince McMahon. This is a dude who's like 40 years old, but still, that's a humongous workload. And I think, just getting some people there with him that has, that the talent will respect and listen to and can help organize things there, would really be helpful. I just don't know who or what or how something like that comes together. It's not as easy as just saying, just hire so-and-so. It's not as easy as you want to make it. Just trust me. But I certainly don't have the answers. So I guess all we can do is suggest and wonder how they're going to clean this up. But there's going to be a lot of news, I think, coming in the next couple of months about Vince's indictments, about AEW's TV deal. And I don't even, I really, there's just a couple things I want for AEW. I don't really care too much about the financial number, dollar figure of it or whatever. That's their deal. As a fan, it would be best for me if they stayed on Warner Brothers Discovery, so we don't have to change championship names. You know how I hate that. If they stay where they are on TBS and TNT, those championships will remain intact. Plus, the home where fans are used to watching them will also be there for another 5+ years, putting them on this platform for a decade, and will be, a good place where fans can always know they can find them. Also, I really want a streaming deal. If they can put their pay-per-views on Max, they might not be able to give them away on Max. Maybe you have to buy them. Maybe it's like $20 or something, plus the cost of the monthly fee for Max. That would be a fair enough deal, I guess. And then you could put all of your library, all the other pay-per-views, the Dynamites, the Rampages, and all of Ring of Honor stuff. You got a pretty decent and hefty library only 5 years in, and that would be nice to have all of that accessible on a streaming platform. So that's really what I want, and I'm hoping whenever this deal is announced that it includes a streaming deal. I'm going to be so disappointed if it's just TBS and TNT continuing, on another 5 years. I need some streaming involved here. So hopefully that's what we get. Cruise here to the chat for a second. All right, we're looking good over there. Thanks again for being here this Saturday afternoon. I do have to wrap things up pretty soon here. Well, no, not really. We got another 45 minutes or so. And I think we should talk about, let me see, I was going to talk about SmackDown, but we've talked a lot about AEW. So let me just continue on that subject, and then we'll circle back and hit SmackDown. So on Dynamite this past week, we're not going to get into all of it. I just want to talk about a couple of key points. We already discussed this week Adam Copeland's injury at Double or Nothing. I uploaded a mic drop on that on Thursday where I kind of scolded him, told him that this was going to happen, and he jumped off that cage and kind of had a change of heart in midair, decided to come down right on his legs and wound up fracturing his tibia. He's on crutches. He needs surgery, and he cannot defend the TNT Championship. So on Dynamite, the Elite came out there to address this situation. They officially stripped the Copester of the title and were about to just award it to Jack Perry. And that's when a returning Christopher Daniels showed up in the aisleway announcing that he is basically been rehired as an interim VP. He's basically going to be Tony Khan's voice. This is a role that I've been calling for like 2 years now. We had pitched this role for William Regal a couple of years ago. Oh, he should be the one out there. He should be the Jack Tunney. Tony Khan is too damn weird and awkward, and he just does not come off well on TV at all. So I don't throw hate at the guy. I'm not a Tony Khan hater at all. I think those people are idiots and weird and obsessed and need to seek help. But I'm also not going to lie to myself. The dude's awkward as fuck when he's on camera. So I don't think he should ever really be out there for anything too big. If he wants to be out there for the Martha Hart stuff and the owner of the company wants to be out there for something, no problem. But in terms of coming out there to announce shit in storyline and help advance storyline, no. He's needed somebody to do the talking for him for a long time now. And Christopher Daniels is a perfect choice because he can do this. He already kind of has a backstage role already, and the Elite on TV fired him, and now he's been brought back by Tony Khan, and he will be the one delivering these messages and delivering them a lot better than Tony Khan could ever dream of delivering them. So this is a character in a role that we have needed. Only one problem I have with this, it's going to be a lot of these, on-air authority roles quarreling with each other. This is some stuff that we have seen throughout the years in wrestling a lot of times. So hopefully they can make this different and it does not grow stale. But Daniels, you being able to use somebody, a piece of talent to do this instead of yourself. Imagine if Vince McMahon sucked at talking and, he put someone in charge of talking for him and that person, could get opportunities. We'd miss out on Austin and McMahon, but, with Tony Khan, I think it's actually good for the talent that he's not very good on camera because it presents and provides an opportunity for someone. So Daniels announced that Jack Perry was not going to be able to be handed the TNT Championship. They're going to have a ladder match at Forbidden Door to crown the new champion, and they're going to do a bunch of qualifying matches on TV. Takeshita picked up a qualifying match last night on Rampage, actually, so he's the first one to qualify. Jack Perry will be in this thing, too. He will qualify for it, and I believe he will win it. I think, I predicted Malachi Black to beat Adam Copeland, but once Copeland won, it's like, okay, it feels like Jack Perry might have been the one to take the title off of him anyway. So I mentioned in the mic drop that it's never great, ever great to be injured. It sucks. And a lot of times it really goofs up and screws up storyline plans, at least with this one. The plan was probably to put the belt on Jack Perry anyway. The only thing that sucks is Adam Copeland wasn't able to put him over. But I think Jack will wind up winning the ladder match, and I would put the belt on him so the Elite can carry all of that gold. Speaking of gold, Mercedes Moné had her TBS title celebration on Dynamite as well, and she was then attacked by Sky Blue. At first, they showed Sky Blue up on the screen because a few weeks ago she was attacked in a sit-down interview, and they never explained who attacked her. And there was a lot of fans wondering if they just dropped the angle, dropped it like third period French. But instead, they revealed that, and they did pay this off, that it was indeed Sky Blue who attacked Mercedes. And then she showed up on the Tron to say she was the one who attacked her. And then Sky Blue slid in from behind and attacked Monet. They fought, and they would set up a match later on in the show, which Mercedes Moné would win. Really good match here, I gotta say. So after Mercedes Moné debuted and bored the pants off of us for 6 weeks with her boring ass promos, she has turned it on now, and it all started with that contract signing with Willow. That's when shit got good. That whole segment was great. The match at Double or Nothing was good, and this match was good. Tremendous finish here. Sky Blue had a code blue countered into the Moneymaker, which looked pretty good, and Mercedes picked up the win in her first. Was that a title defense? I didn't even write it down if it was, but I think she did actually put the title on the line, I think, and she defeated Sky Blue. Good match, and good to see Mercedes now, after all that time doing nothing, hitting the ground running. So hopefully we'll see her on TV or in the ring most every week moving forward. After the match, she was confronted by New Japan Strong Champion Stephanie Vaquer from CMLL. She's going to be facing Mercedes at Forbidden Door, so that sounds pretty fun. We also got the segment that we knew we were going to get with Trent Beretta and OC and Don Callis. Don Callis was going to extend a contract offer to Orange Cassidy, but we knew this was going to somehow result in Trent Beretta being the one to turn heel. They have telegraphed the hell out of this Luger and Tatanka 1994 angle here with the $1 Million Man. Orange Cassidy says no to Callis. Statlander and Stokely come out to kind of help get the Trent turn, or the Trent, I guess it's not a turn, he already turned, but Trent joining the Callis family reveal going. And he showed up in the ring in black and attacked Orange Cassidy and beat the hell out of him. So it's kind of funny to see Trent and Cassidy and Statlander all, in such different times in their careers compared to the best friends. And Statlander kind of being a part of this reveal was, kind of fun. But again, it's something that we saw coming, and I'm only moderately interested in that angle anyway. John Moxley defeated Rocky Romero in an IWGP Eliminator. So if you are booked in an Eliminator match against Moxley, you're not going to win. Oh my God. And then in the Learning Tree, Jesus Christ, Jericho, I just can't with him. He's just all meta now. And he calls Big Bill Redwood, and he calls us fans his branches, all my branches out there. And he's got this TV show now. It's called TV Time. He's got a fucking tree in the ring. I think he kidnapped Mitch all those years ago, and Mitch grew up to be a tree. That's what I think happened. So he's got this stupid-ass talk show, and he's just obnoxious. Brian Keith, of course, helped him win at Double or Nothing. They introduced him as the newest member of the Learning Tree. And he says, bad apples don't fall far from the Learning Tree. Ha, ha, ha. Everything's just over the top. Mel's laughing, and it's just, the whole thing is just a joke. Jericho doing things to amuse himself was funny in 1998. It was. Some of the things he was saying and doing on Nitro, my holds, and random, song title references, and just all sorts of wacky stuff, the wild hairdos and the temper tantrums. That was all fun. 26 years ago. It was really fun. I enjoyed it as a fan. 26 years ago. He was funny 26 years ago. But now it's 2024, and he is awful. So he does his thing. Hook then comes out, beats up all the Jericho security, and right when he's about to, I guess, get in the ring and attack Jericho and his friends, Samoa Joe's music hits, and then he turns up just right there at ringside, and he's face to face with Hook. He whispers something in Hook's ear, starts walking away, and Hook follows him. So sounds like Joe is going to be influencing Hook in some way here, and I don't know how this is going to play in. I'm assuming it's going to be Jericho dropping that for the World Championship back to Hook, because now he's the longest running for the World Champion at 39 days or whatever he said it was. So it's just like, I get what he's doing, but it wears out its welcome so quick. A lot of Jericho's, there was like a funny Jericho wheel of trust or something floating around social media where it kind of showed like the process of some of these angles. I'm like, okay, what the fuck is this? Oh, okay, I kind of get it. Oh, okay, I see what he's doing. All right, I get it. Okay, it's worn out its welcome. Okay, enough of this shit. Okay, now you're just pissing us off. It's like every one of these things just goes through the same cycle. And if it can benefit Brian Keith or Big Bill, great, but Jericho's, tried to give the rub to a lot of guys, and, most of the time it hasn't panned out. He's taken losses on TV to lots of different people that translated to absolutely nothing. And now he's out here basically kind of making a public mocking of TV time, and you already have a roster full of talent that's already kind of frustrated about this kind of thing. And then you're out there, your old ass is out there sucking up TV time and talking about TV time. Matter of fact, last night on Rampage, the asshole says, I'm going to step away from commentary so I can spend more time on TV. Oh my God. It's like, I want to laugh, but I also want to fucking kill him. So, by the way, Matt Menard, Daddy Magic, has been taken over for Jericho, and apparently is going to be at least the semi-permanent replacement for him going forward on Rampage, because apparently he loves it and he's good at it. So I'm actually happy. That's actually an upgrade in my opinion there. So Jericho and his learning tree, I loved how obnoxious the set was. I love that the tree was purposely built to look like it was made by fourth grade theater class. Just god-awful. Awful stuff. Here's what was not awful. Fun match between Swerve Strickland and Killswitch. Really fun house call, stomp, and kick out by Killswitch, which surprised everybody. And then a second house call for the win. I enjoyed that. Felt like Swerve is going to stamp out the rest of this issue with Christian and his friends. And then we would see later on Will Ospreay be the one to win the Casino Eliminator. So this was Casino Gauntlet. Was that what it was? Casino Gauntlet match. Not Eliminator match. Casino Gauntlet match with 652 guys in it. And the winner was going to face Swerve Strickland for the AEW title at Forbidden Door. We had Jay White in this thing, Claudio, lots of guys. It was packed with people. Will Ospreay got the win in the end, and that was kind of surprising to me because I kind of had Will Ospreay penciled in for a main event of All In. So that could still be the case, but now that he's facing Swerve Strickland at Forbidden Door, are they going to run this back? Are we going to get a trilogy that's going to culminate there? Or are they just getting this match out of the way now because Swerve is going to have to face MJF or something at All In? We don't know, but Ospreay getting the win and being confronted by Swerve after the match was interesting. I'm just not sure now what this means for Ospreay. I can't tell if Tony Khan is saying, Will Ospreay is too great, he's too over, I got to put the belt on him right now. I don't think that's what he's saying. I think Will Ospreay absolutely will be AEW World Champion. I think he has to be. He's too good not to be in the very near future. But you just put the belt on Swerve. It's time for Swerve to have his run. And I think his run needs to go a little bit farther than Forbidden Door. So I think Swerve will probably beat Will Ospreay at Forbidden Door. It would be nice if they could finally, because he's not, and correct me if I'm wrong, he's not completely separated yet from the Callis family. Is that not over yet? Or is it? It's not, right? So I feel like something has got to finally happen there where he's either officially breaks from them or there's some sort of turn or split or fight or something. So maybe something happens in that match he loses. Maybe it's a little bit of because of the Callis family or something. I don't know how you get out of that match, if you don't want to have him lose clean. But as great as Will Ospreay is, and even though Will Ospreay is my current favorite wrestler in the current pro wrestling landscape that we are witnessing right now, I think he can afford a clean loss to the world champion. No problem. Swerve can just beat him. It's a big win for Swerve. It's a win he needs. And it wouldn't damage or affect, I don't believe, a future world title run for Swerve, or I'm sorry, for Ospreay. So if you're going to do this match and it's going to be on pay-per-view, on a pay-per-view that annually delivers every year, every Forbidden Door has been awesome. So this is a match where I think you just got to have not too much funny business. Just have Swerve beat Will Ospreay, but we probably will have a lot of extracurricular shenanigans going down, but I can't see Swerve dropping the title at Forbidden Door. I just can't. Like I said, we had a Rampage last night where Jericho announced that he's leaving commentary, and Takeshita did qualify for the TNT ladder match at Forbidden Door. Tonight on Collision, which airs in about an hour, we have Cage of Agony and Thunder Rosa in action. We've got Shane Taylor and Lee Moriarty versus the West Coast Wrecking Crew. We got Leo Rush. Good to see him back in AEW, taking on Roderick Strong. Garcia and Shibata taking on the Workhorsemen. And we have Claudio versus Johnny TV and Will Ospreay defending the international title against Kyle O'Reilly. That's the match I want to see. I'll be checking out that match when I get home this evening. All right, we got to circle the wagons way back and still talk about SmackDown now, but not before I tilt my head over here, see what the chat is saying, and ask you guys to smash that thumbs up button for me. Ben, oh yeah, I saw Vic Joseph. I don't think Vic, that wasn't like a botch. That was totally intended. Vic Joseph almost mentioned AEW on NXT. That was a totally planned line. He said, he was in AE. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's not like he almost accidentally said it. They totally planned to say that. But I did hear him deliver the line. And it was totally planned. It was a working line. Oh, JJ, good point. It's 3 appearances, perhaps, not 3 matches. I might have had that wrong. Okay, so if it's 3 appearances, then one of them is already burned on Tuesday. Okay, so I might have had that wrong or read that wrong. It's not for Jordan Grace in NXT. It's not 3 matches. It's 3 appearances. My bad. That could be true. So that means it's just going to be 1 match and 2 appearances in the ring for the build. Yeah. Maybe that makes more sense, JJ. Thank you for the clarification. See, that's why I go back and read some of these comments. Oh, yeah, I did not put this in my notes, but I did see that Gable Steveson was signed by who? Was it Buffalo? Who the hell was it? Was it Buffalo? An NFL team has signed Gable Steveson. Okay. Yeah, good point. Ethan Page also has his own promotion. No word on how that is going to work with his new WWE deal. Yeah, Rodrigo, Ricky Starks is another guy that's on a lot of fans' radar. I think he's going to be one to make the jump as well. All those names we talked about earlier, put Ricky on the list. Delayed Gratch. Greg just said something. I was wondering, Edge had just broke his leg, so that would have required a script change, right? Could this be normal for any weekly live event? Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what I said earlier, but I don't think Edge's broken leg would have affected the Saraya Mariah May match. I think that was just them wanting to do a different women's match instead. But that's my point, is like wrestling in general is just going to have to be booked on the fly because nobody stays healthy and things happen and plans change and, extenuating circumstances and surprises and all sorts of stuff can derail what you have planned. That's why you have to have backup plans. And you also have to have the ability to think creatively on the fly. And it feels like in those situations, the further, it's like debt. The further you get in debt, the harder it is to climb out of it. And I think with the creative stuff, the more disorganized it gets, the harder it is to pull it all back together, and I feel like it's like kind of like it's a greenhouse effect, like if you get to a certain point, you're just not going to be able to recover. It's the event horizon, if you will, of pro wrestling creative. And I don't want to see AEW, slip down that slope. They've got too much talent there, and they've given us too much great wrestling already in 5 years for them to, completely implode like that when they really shouldn't. It's not like they're lacking funding, for anything. There should, if changes need to be made or you recognize legitimate actual problems that you want to rectify, then fucking rectify them. What's stopping you? It's not like, oh, they can't, or, oh, the management would never approve it. You are management. Just get out your wallet. Fix the problem. Hire some motherfuckers. I'll do it. No, never mind. Never mind. I won't. Tony Khan, if you're watching, do not offer me a creative position in your company. It would stress me out. All right, let's talk about SmackDown last night. Okay, show. Mostly focused on a couple of in-ring segments, of course, but let's talk about Queen Nia. I was wondering, how much she was going to get into this Queen thing, and as expected, she's all about it. And it's interesting, too, because we've always made fun of of the king concept in wrestling. I've always thought it was dumb. I'm like, if you're a wrestler, why would you want to wear that shit? Why would you want to walk around in a fucking costume and say, I'm the king, look at my crown and my scepter and my cape? What the fuck, are you 5? Like, you look like a moron. And I never understood, why that would be an attractive gimmick to have as a wrestler. I'm going to walk around as a king. You look like you're a mental patient. You look like you need to be thrown in a padded van. I mean, that's crazy. Hey, there's a motherfucker walking down the road shirtless with a cape and a crown and a scepter. Call the cops. I've always thought it was silly. The King of the Ring, even Bret Hart, my favorite wrestler, he put all that shit on. So did Owen Hart. Heels are better with it because heels can, make it fun. Baby faces, it's absurd for a baby face to ever put on the crown and cape. But that's for the men. Women, it's completely different. Women love the queen thing. Look on social media. Every woman, there's a lot of wrestlers. Some version of queen is in their bio. It's all queen. They're all queens, So this works for them, And Nia Jax is perfect because when she came back, she has been this, quite frankly, amazing heel. And we talked about this in the King and Queen of the Ring review, that I think Nia Jax is going to be a lot of fun with that crown. And she came out and she had it put on her, and she's going to really, really run with this Queen Nia thing. And then she even said she calls out Bayley. She demands that Bayley come to her ring. So she's got the whole queen thing down and she loves it and it fits her. And it is funny how it's different with the women and the men. Queen Charlotte, everybody's a queen. So when a women's wrestler wins the Queen of the Ring, it doesn't look as dumb on them as it does on the men, so this works. The men king thing, I really hope, did we see Gunther on Raw? I didn't even watch Raw. Please tell me he didn't come out there and wear his crown. He didn't have it on. Please tell me he didn't have it on. I don't think I can handle that. But it just worked. The women, it fits. The men, it does not. So I think Nia Jax, it's a good idea to have a heel be the Queen of the Ring because heels are better with it. So Nia's going to be obnoxious and full of herself and, believing now because she won a goddamn wrestling match that she's a real, actual, living, breathing queen. So she demands Bayley come out. Bayley starts to come out. She's then attacked by Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Piper's going to be getting the shot, I think, against Bayley at Clash at the Castle. So they were there to warn Nia Jax that at SummerSlam, it ain't going to be Bayley who's going to be champion. It's going to be, Chelsea said it's going to be her spicy little margarita, Piper Niven. So Nia was like, whatever, I'll kill whoever my opponent is. Doesn't matter. I'm getting the shot at SummerSlam, and I'm going to win the championship, and I kind of hope she does. I do. I hope Nia Jax wins the title at SummerSlam. Can we go back and tell my 2020 self this? Go tell me in 2020, 4 years ago, hey, Greg, you're really going to be loving the work of Nia Jax in 4 years. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I would tell you, get out of my house. But no, that is reality. I really hope she beats Bayley. I hope she does and wins the title. And I am where we are right now, June 1st. I feel that's a real possibility, and I hope she does win. We had Paul Heyman and Kevin Owens having a segment that was really, really good. It basically consisted of Paul Heyman trembling with fear, begging Kevin Owens to back off the bloodline because they're so unpredictable and they're so scary, and Solo Sikoa is off his rocker, and he's just so fearful. It's almost like this cry for help, almost like he's trying to tell Kevin Owens to please dial 911 in your pocket type of thing. And Owens, said, fuck those guys. I took everything the great original bloodline had to offer. Double super kicks and running me over with golf carts and all the things you did to me. I'll never stop fighting these guys, and I don't want your help. And that's when Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa came out, and they were heading to the ring, and Owens was immediately then backed up by the Street Profits. And that led to an Owens and Streets against Bloodline 3. Was it a tag team or was it a six-man? I think it was a six-man. Bloodline won. Tonga hit his finisher on Montez after Montez hit Tonga Loa with a frog splash. And that allowed Tama to nail Montez with his finisher, pin him, get the win for the Bloodline. And we'll see where this continues to go. With Paul Heyman, though, his performance is so over the top. I've mentioned this in like the last 3 podcasts. His performance is so over the top that I'm kind of thinking he's faking this whole thing. I think he's either in cahoots with Roman or he's in cahoots with Rock for them to instruct him to pretend to fear these guys, to act like he hasn't talked to me. Like if I was Roman, I'm like, just act like you haven't talked to me. Just tell him you haven't talked to me. And I'm going to stay absent. And they're going to continue to toy with you and fuck with you, act scared of them, so they won't hurt you, and really, really make them think that, they are filling you with fear, and make Solo think he's in charge. And then we're going to hit these guys with their ultimate surprise in a few months and just work the shit out of them. That's kind of what I'm hoping is happening here, because Paul Heyman is just so, his performance is so ridiculous. And I'm like, come on, Paul Heyman, we've all known him for 35 plus years now to be a master manipulator. He's been doing this in real life, when he was a promoter, and the things he can do and convince people to do and convince people to think. So I would love it if this is one of Paul Heyman's most masterful, ruses, where he's, and the entire time when Solo and the Bloodline think that they have Paul Heyman scared shitless, in reality, it's Paul Heyman playing them like puppets. That would be fun. So we'll see if I'm even close to correct there, but I think that would be a fun conclusion or a fun surprise when Roman comes back, or we get the Usos back together somehow, and you can head into War Games for a big civil war. That can be fun. What else do I have written down for SmackDown? Only other match, I wrote down Andrade and Apollo Crews. Andrade beat him, and I guess earlier on in the night, Garza offered an invitation to join Legado del Fantasma, which Andrade kind of has declined, at least for the moment. And Garza was out there ringside for that whole thing. So it looks like they're trying to find a home for Andrade, a storyline, a faction, a group, an alliance of some kind. And we'll see where he lands there. But the big segment last night on SmackDown was a good old throwback. We love a throwback, right? Oh my God. So AJ Styles, we've been talking about AJ Styles lately. I mentioned that after the match with Cody Rhodes, if that was just going to be a one-off like it appeared it was going to be, I was like, just trade him to Raw. Trade him to Raw for Jey Uso. Send Uso to SmackDown so he can be a part of that bloodline stuff. Send AJ to Raw, fresh start. But it doesn't look like that's happening, because AJ Styles showed up on SmackDown last night in a bright colored suit. Not a pink suit, but a blue suit. Carolina blue suit. He comes out earlier on in the night. He approaches Nick Aldis. I mentioned something about a title shot. And then he's out in the ring. He brings the Good Brothers with him, so Carl Anderson and Gallows are in tow. And he's very, got kind of a somber look on his face. And he basically proceeds to do exactly what Mark Henry did in 2013. And a lot of fans, great. I did not watch this live. I was kind of watching social media play out during this. And so I did get a few tags. Greg, he's doing the Mark Henry thing. So it sounds like most of the audience were picking up on this almost instantly. The way he was coming out there. I've been wrestling for so long and talking about his career and thanking the Good Brothers for being his real brothers and, how much he loves them, and kind of pours his heart out a little bit. And then he asks Gallows and Anderson to leave so he can call out Cody Rhodes, who beat him at Backlash in that tremendously amazing championship match. And back in 2013, Mark Henry had John Cena out there with him. And it's always, I've always joked about the Mark Henry angle. I've always just kind of, I've always ribbed the fans because it's always funny to me that a lot of fans fell for Mark Henry's retirement. And I've talked about this countless times over the last 11 years. It's always just kind of like a little joke on this channel because it's something I always bring up. I'm like, how did you guys fall for that? I mean, I was well programmed into WWE's formula and pro wrestling's formula by that point. I can even see shit happening just peripherally, a lot of times. So to me, when Mark Henry was out there that night and he's got that suit on and he's playing it up and he's getting emotional. I mean, even if that was a real retirement, what I could not get past was the fact that John Cena was out there. And I'm like, the whole time, I'm like, he's full of shit. He's full of shit. He's full of shit. I'm watching this. I'm like, I'm not convinced at all. You can cry all day, Mark. Cry your eyes out. Cry a fucking pool of tears in the ring. And I'm just going to be like, bullshit. You are full of it. You are not retiring. I did not believe it for a second. And I sat there and I literally waited for him to attack John Cena. I might have believed it if John Cena wasn't out there. That's where they lost me. That's where WWE has got to know that a lot of us have been watching a long time and we're not fucking stupid. And I think that he needed to be out of there, and be gone for at least maybe be gone for the whole retirement speech, to where, Mark Henry cries and retires and his music starts playing and he's celebrating with the audience. And then maybe John Cena comes out to give him one final hug and to raise his hand. And that's when Mark Henry attacks him. Or maybe Henry then calls out calls out Cena after he's had his celebration with the music, and the fans, he's hugged a bunch of fans at ringside, maybe even put his family out there, have his mom or family members, anybody who's close to Mark at ringside, to where he hops out of the ring and he hugs them. And the announcers can be like, that's his mom, or, I don't know if his mom's alive, or, whatever. Something like that, and just fucking play it up. Play it up to where he's crying, and then maybe he's still at ringside, and then he goes over to Lillian Garcia, whoever, grabs a microphone. He goes, hey, one last thing. I just got to say, can I please have the WWE champion come out here right now? My mom has always wanted to meet you. And then Cena comes out, and he hugs his mother, and then they go in the ring to raise the hand, and that's when Mark Henry turns on him. That's how you fool the audience. But instead, John Cena was out there the whole damn time while Mark Henry is having the speech. And then John Cena with his bright ass white shirt is standing right there. Come on, y'all. And then, of course, when Mark Henry turns on him, everybody's like, I fell for it. How did you guys fall for that? What the fuck's wrong with you? Anyway, I'm kidding. I say this all as a joke because it's always been real funny to me. But last night on SmackDown, AJ Styles, they rehash it. And I don't even mind a throwback. I don't mind a rehash. I've never seen one this deliberate. I mean, this was the exact same angle. And it's like WWE is, rehashed a few things and they've borrowed and they've taken ideas and modernized them. This was almost the same thing. It really was. But it was great. Even though you knew it was coming, it was still good. And Cody Rhodes was called out by AJ Styles, and AJ said, this is the house that AJ built, and he's handing Cody the keys, and I'm proud of you. You're a great champion. I love you. Trying to do AJ's accent. And they had a great one, and he showed Cody the utmost respect. And Cody, Mr. Gullible Man here, I think that he's just almost too nice. That's why I think it would be great if Arn Anderson showed up next week on SmackDown and scolded Cody. What the hell is wrong with you? There is a 4-year-old kid in the front row that saw this coming. How did you not? Slap him. Get out the Denny's menu. And say, it's time to go to school, son. Come with me. You want to be a successful champion? You and I got to talk. Don't pull out a Glock or anything. Whatever Arn was doing in AEW, maybe scale back on some of that. But then maybe Arn can be there to not necessarily start being with Cody at ringside. I really don't want that. I think Cody should just be Cody. But, don't be out there like Jose Lothario was out there with Shawn. We do not need that. But I think it would be really cool if Arn Anderson made an in-ring appearance to snap Cody out of it. Just to wake him up a little bit. Hey, you can't be so damn nice. Sure, you're a great champion who wants to please the fans and kiss the babies, but you got to remember you are a targeted man. And you need to be better than this, and you need to hit them before they hit you. That type of thing. And how fun would that be? So, of course, AJ and Cody share the hug. They're raising the hand. You're just waiting for it, You're just raising AJ's hand, and then finally, boom, the clothesline happens. AJ beats the hell out of Cody, throws him on the outside of the ring, beats him up all on the outside of the ring side area as well, and then hits Cody with a Styles Clash off the steps onto the floor. Super gnarly. That's a dangerous move. I hate the Styles Clash. Every time I see it, I hold my breath. So Cody survived that, luckily, which is interesting because he tweeted earlier out in the day, I always appreciate every match because it could be your last or something like that. So that was a close one. So now it appears that AJ Styles is going to be facing Cody Rhodes again. And I guess that will be at Clash at the Castle. They're going to get a match in France and a match in Scotland together, which would be amazing. Or they could prolong it to Money in the Bank, but I feel like they got to give the Clash crowd Cody. Maybe not, though. Maybe they don't. Because I feel like if Drew and Priest need to be the main event. So that means Cody, if he defends against AJ at Clash, it will not be the main event. But I think that's okay in this circumstance because it's Drew's hometown. But we'll see if they maybe hold that match off for Money in the Bank. And if they put that match on last at Money in the Bank, that means we could get a cash-in. We'll see what happens. But anyway, SmackDown was okay, but I thought the Heyman and Owens segment was good. Even though I saw the AJ turn coming, 4 light years away, I still thought it was good. It was fun. And I didn't even hate Nia Jax wearing that crown. So all in all, not a bad SmackDown, not a bad Dynamite this week. And I actually legitimately skipped Raw outside of the Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch cage match, which saw Dominic once again get involved, kind of inadvertently, I guess, slamming the cage door in Becky's head. And then after the match, Liv plants a very aggressive kiss on Dominic. You couldn't quite tell if he liked it or not as the show went off the air. And many fans missed that kiss because USA Network in some homes, I guess, did not show that. So we'll see where they go this week. It'll be good to be back up here on Monday to talk about the Raw happenings because we got a lot to catch up on there. But that is going to kind of do it for this episode. I got to bounce out of here now. I now have to go to that other job of mine. And then I'll be home tonight to be chilling and catching up on Collision and getting ready for tomorrow's WWE King of the Ring 1995 watch along. The link is already up on the channel right now. Join us tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. We're going to watch a very bad pay-per-view together. And you know what? It's going to be fun. It is. You watch. You watch. All right, let's see if there's anybody else with anything to say in the chat. I know I got some super chats I need to answer. I don't think I've missed any other than this one from Joshua Aparicio. Appreciate the $2. Joe Hendry appearing at Clash at the Castle. I wouldn't rule it out. I would not rule it out at all. I love that idea. I'm down with that. You know who else I'm down with? The Juliet 316. Gifting out a Good Micro Commentaries membership to Alex Dredge. Thank you so much for that, as always, Juliet. She's one of our favorites up in here. Who else we got? The Juliet, she's got $5 for us. Thank you so much for that. Nothing will ever top Mark Henry's 2011 retirement. Oh, I thought it was 2013. Was it 2011? I thought it was 2013. But WWE gave it the college try last night. Too bad they made Cody dumb. It did make Cody look bad. It did. But like I said, they can easily rectify that. They can rectify that with Arn. And we'll see if that winds up happening. Yeah, Joshua, yeah. if I was a kid, I would have totally fell for it. But I was 35, so I kind of saw it coming. But yeah, I mean, if I was a kid, I definitely would have been probably duped too. But the dead giveaway. As soon as I saw John Cena jump into Mark Henry's arms, dead giveaway. No, as soon as John Cena was out there, dead giveaway. That was it. Oh, Doug Funny, good point. And which we brought up earlier. That was probably just a little nod to Mark because that was he just left AEW. That's kind of cool. I didn't even put that together. We talked about Mark Henry being done with AEW earlier on in the podcast, and I didn't even put together that might have been just a little bit salute. What's up, Mark? If you want to come back in and sit in on a kickoff panel, you got Triple H's number. Didn't even think about that. Okay, everybody is correct in Juliet now in 2013. Good. See, I'm glad I was not crazy for once. For once. All right. Oh, sorry, Joe, that it's not working. I've had that problem a couple times. I tried like a motherfucker to super chat someone a few weeks ago, and something just wasn't. I'm like, why is it not working? I don't understand why it's not working. So sometimes it's weird. Sorry about that, Joe. But you did ask. Sorry if we already discussed, but did you hear Goldberg refer to Bret Hart as that moron I kicked in the head on the Von Erich pod? No, I didn't. If Goldberg makes an appearance on a podcast, I won't listen to it because I don't like Goldberg. But as much as I don't like Goldberg, I think he's a fucking douche and an asshole and a prick. He has every right to bark back at Bret Hart. Bret's my favorite wrestler of all time. Goldberg's my least favorite wrestler of all time. And even I have to admit that if Goldberg wants to fire one back at Bret, that's fine. Bret has buried Bill Goldberg every chance he's gotten it. Every opportunity that Bret has, he buries Bill Goldberg. Bill Goldberg, if he didn't respond, that would be weird. So if he wants to call Bret Hart a moron, whatever, Bret honestly has called Goldberg worse. So I have no issue with that whatsoever. Yeah, anyway, I think that's got to be it. I got to get out of here now. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with me this afternoon. It was a lot of fun, as always. We will have more fun tomorrow when we watch King of the Ring 1995 together. Tatanka in the main event. What a world. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will catch y'all tomorrow. Peace.